In a world where beauty standards were built on fragile frames, narrow waistlines, and pale complexions, the journey to self-acceptance felt like an uphill battle. For Tasha, a plus-sized black woman, that battle was as internal as it was external, with scars from society and from herself. Crowned with insecurities at a young age, she never imagined that one day she would proudly wear a crown of confidence, embracing her curves and her beauty. But it wasn't easy. Her story was a reflection of the countless women who have faced similar struggles, fighting through body shaming, cultural expectations, and the overwhelming urge to conform. Growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood, Tasha's early years were marked by feelings of alienation. Her skin was darker than her classmates, her body rounder. As a child, she wasn't fully aware of how these differences would shape her experiences. But as adolescence arrived, so did the hurtful comments. In the locker rooms, where slender girls changed with ease, Tasha would hide behind walls, hoping her body would somehow shrink or disappear. "I remember feeling like my body was a problem," she recalled, her voice quiet yet steady. "The other girls, they were all wearing size 4 jeans, and I was stuck in the plus-size section. I hated it. I hated me." It wasn't just the school halls that whispered disapproval. Even within her own family, she often felt like the odd one out. Some of her relatives, well-meaning but painfully ignorant, made comments about her weight. They believed it was a sign of love, a way to motivate her toward health. Instead, it fueled her internalized shame. Every Sunday dinner felt like an examination, her plate too full, her arms too wide, her thighs too large. The message was clear: she wasn't small enough, wasn't delicate enough, wasn't enough. The pressure to change her body became overwhelming during her high school years. While her peers flaunted their new clothes and attended dances in form-fitting dresses, Tasha avoided mirrors altogether. She went through her closet in search of loose clothing, oversized jackets, anything that could disguise the curves that she had learned to despise. "I would starve myself sometimes," she admitted, the pain still raw. "I'd skip meals or barely eat during the day because I thought if I could just be smaller, life would be easier. People would like me more. I wouldn't stand out as much." The cruel irony was that no matter how much weight she lost, she could never lose the sense of unworthiness. Society had ingrained in her mind that black bodies, especially plus-sized black bodies, were not worthy of being celebrated. She was too big to be loved, too black to be beautiful, or so she thought. The media played its role, too. Tasha grew up in a time when billboards, commercials, and magazines all reflected a singular image of beauty: thin, white, and Eurocentric. The representation of plus-sized women, let alone plus-sized black women, was almost non-existent. If they were present, it was usually as the comic relief, a caricature of their larger bodies. But the hardest part was yet to come. College brought freedom but also new anxieties. Tasha attended a university far from home, thinking a fresh start would bring relief. Yet, the very thing she wanted to escape, the judgment, the side glances, the comments, followed her to campus. Navigating a predominantly white institution, she often felt like the odd one out in more ways than one. Parties, dates, and social gatherings became events she dreaded. The stares lingered too long, and the whispers felt suffocating. She spent most of her college days hiding in the background, her vibrant personality dimmed by self-doubt. "I was so insecure back then," she said, shaking her head. "I wouldn't even go to parties or date because I felt like no one would ever be attracted to someone who looked like me. I mean, I wasn't thin, and I didn't have the features people thought were attractive. So I stayed quiet. I stayed invisible." But there was a breaking point, one that shattered the internalized narrative she had been carrying for years. During her sophomore year, she joined a black student union meeting where the topic was body image in the black community. For the first time, Tasha found herself in a space where her experience wasn't unique or isolated. She listened as other black women spoke candidly about their struggles, their insecurities, and their battles with societal beauty standards. They talked about the damaging effects of Eurocentric ideals and how even within their own communities, certain body types were preferred over others. That night, she cried. Not because of sadness, but because she felt heard. She wasn't alone in her pain, and that realization opened her heart to the possibility that perhaps, just maybe, she could learn to love herself. The journey from self-loathing to self-love, however, was far from straightforward. It took years of unlearning the harmful messages she had internalized, years of pushing back against the voices that told her she was not enough. Tasha began attending therapy, where she started to confront her body dysmorphia and her identity as a plus-sized black woman in a world that often devalued her existence. One pivotal moment came during a therapy session when her counselor asked, "Who told you that you weren't beautiful?" Tasha paused, her mind racing through memories of childhood, family gatherings, media consumption, and hurtful comments from peers. No one had ever explicitly told her she was ugly, but the message had been delivered in 1,000 subtle ways. It was in the way her family pushed her to lose weight, the way boys never asked her to dance, the way clothing stores catered to smaller bodies, and the way black women like her were invisible in the media. But that day in that quiet therapy room, she realized something. It was never about her. It was about the unrealistic and harmful standards that society had constructed, standards that she was never meant to fit into. And more importantly, she didn't have to. From that moment on, Tasha made a conscious decision to rewrite the narrative. She would no longer be the passive recipient of society's criticisms. Instead, she would actively fight against them. She threw herself into learning about body positivity and self-acceptance. She started following plus-sized influencers, especially black women, who were unapologetically embracing their bodies. Seeing women who looked like her being celebrated was transformative. "Representation is so powerful," she said, smiling. "When I saw other plus-sized black women thriving and loving themselves, it gave me permission to do the same." Slowly but surely, Tasha began reclaiming her identity. She wore clothes that made her feel confident, not just comfortable. She started sharing her journey on social media, opening up about her insecurities and her path to self-acceptance. The more she shared, the more support she received. Messages poured in from women who related to her story, who thanked her for speaking up, for being vulnerable. And then, something incredible happened. A local plus-sized fashion show reached out to her, asking if she would be interested in modeling. At first, she laughed at the idea, her, a model. It seemed impossible. But deep down, she knew this was another step in her journey of self-love. She agreed, and when she walked down that runway, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, powerful. She was no longer hiding. She was no longer shrinking herself to fit into a box. She was standing tall, curves and all, and embracing her body in a way she never thought possible. "I felt like I was finally wearing my crown," she said, tears of joy in her eyes. "Not because I was perfect, but because I finally realized that I didn't need to be." Today, Tasha continues to share her story, inspiring other plus-sized black women to embrace their curves, to wear their crowns with pride, and to reject the harmful standards that society tries to impose. Her message is clear: you are beautiful, you are worthy, and you are enough, exactly as you are. "Learning to love myself was the hardest thing I've ever done," she admitted. "But now, I wear my crown with pride. I'm not just a plus-sized black woman. I am a queen." Her journey serves as a beacon for others, a reminder that confidence is not given, it is claimed. And no matter how long the road may be, every step towards self-love is a step toward liberation. And then, something incredible happened. A local plus-sized fashion show reached out to her, asking if she would be interested in modeling. At first, she laughed at the idea, her, a model. It seemed impossible. But deep down, she knew this was another step in her journey of self-love. She agreed, and when she walked down that runway, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, powerful. She was no longer hiding. She was no longer shrinking herself to fit into a box. She was standing tall, curves and all, and embracing her body in a way she never thought possible. "I felt like I was finally wearing my crown," she said, tears of joy in her eyes. "Not because I was perfect, but because I finally realized that I didn't need to be." Today, Tasha continues to share her story, inspiring other plus-sized black women to embrace their curves, to wear their crowns with pride, and to reject the harmful standards that society tries to impose. Her message is clear: you are beautiful, you are worthy, and you are enough, exactly as you are. Learning to love myself was the hardest thing I've ever done, she admitted. But now, I wear my crown with pride. I'm not just a plus-sized black woman. I am a queen. Her journey serves as a beacon for others, a reminder that confidence is not given, it is claimed. And no matter how long the road may be, every step towards self-love is a step toward liberation. Overcoming the struggle wasn't an overnight victory. After that runway experience, I knew the journey to self-love had only just begun. While stepping onto that stage was a powerful moment of reclaiming my identity, the deep-rooted scars of my insecurities still lingered. I realized I needed to keep working on myself, to address the years of emotional damage and rebuild my confidence brick by brick. Therapy played a pivotal role in that process. I continued attending weekly sessions with my counselor, who helped me untangle the complex web of feelings that had developed over the years. Each session brought new revelations, not only about my body image, but about how I viewed myself as a black woman. My therapist encouraged me to journal, to write down my feelings whenever negative thoughts about my body surfaced. That practice of self-reflection became my lifeline during the darkest moments. One of the key lessons I learned through therapy was the importance of self-compassion. I had spent so many years being my own harshest critic, constantly berating myself for not living up to impossible standards. My therapist asked me a simple question one day: would you ever speak to your best friend the way you speak to yourself? That question hit me hard. I realized I had been treating myself with so much cruelty, speaking to myself in ways I would never dream of speaking to anyone else. From that moment, I committed to changing the way I spoke about myself. Instead of focusing on the parts of my body I didn't like, I started finding things I loved. I learned to appreciate my body for what it was capable of, not just what it looked like. My legs, once a source of shame, carried me through long walks and workouts. My arms, which I used to hide, embraced my loved ones and held me strong. Bit by bit, I found myself embracing not just my physical body but the person inside it. The next step in my healing was surrounding myself with positivity. I realized that much of my self-doubt had been reinforced by the media and the people I had allowed into my life. I made a conscious effort to curate my social media feeds, following plus-sized models, body-positive influencers, and activists who celebrated Black beauty in all its forms. Seeing women who looked like me, living confidently and unapologetically, filled me with hope. I immersed myself in this new world of representation and started to believe that I, too, could live with that same sense of freedom. Another important part of my healing came from building a community of like-minded women. I joined online forums and support groups for plus-sized women, particularly Black women, where we shared our experiences, struggles, and victories. These spaces became my refuge, a place where I didn't have to explain myself or justify my feelings. We lifted each other up, and it was in those moments of connection that I felt the power of sisterhood. Knowing I wasn't alone made all the difference. It was empowering to be in a space where my body wasn't something to be fixed, but something to be celebrated. As I started to embrace my body more, I found myself reconnecting with parts of myself I had forgotten. I began dancing again, something I hadn't done since high school. It felt liberating to move my body without worrying about how it looked to others. I wasn't trying to shrink myself anymore. I was allowing myself to take up space, to own the space I was in. Each dance, each step, was an affirmation of my worth. And for the first time in my life, I felt beautiful. But the turning point, the moment that truly transformed me, was when I stumbled upon a book titled Curves, Confidence, and Crowns, Embracing Your Body as a Plus-Sized Black Woman. At first, I wasn't sure if I was ready for another self-help book. I had read so many that offered temporary relief, but left me feeling empty once I closed the cover. But this one was different. The book wasn't just about body positivity. It was about embracing the unique experience of being a plus-sized Black woman. It spoke to the struggles I had faced my entire life, not only as someone who didn't fit traditional beauty standards, but as a Black woman navigating a world that often didn't see me. The chapters were filled with practical steps, exercises that helped me confront my fears, affirmations that uplifted my spirit, and stories from women who had walked the same path I was on. It was raw, honest, and empowering in a way I had never experienced before. One of the steps in the book that resonated with me was the practice of mirror work, standing in front of a mirror every day and speaking affirmations to myself. At first, it felt awkward, even ridiculous. But with time, it became one of the most healing practices in my journey. I would look at my reflection, and instead of criticizing my body, I would say, "You are beautiful. You are worthy. You deserve love." Little by little, those words started to sink in. Another powerful part of the book was the emphasis on crowning yourself, metaphorically speaking. It encouraged women to see themselves as queens, to recognize their inherent worth, and to stop waiting for validation from others. That message struck me deeply. I had spent so many years waiting for someone else to tell me I was beautiful, to tell me I was enough. But this book reminded me that I didn't need to wait. I had the power to crown myself, to declare my worth to the world. Practicing the steps outlined in Curves, Confidence, and Crowns was a game changer for me. It wasn't just about feeling better in my body, it was about transforming my entire outlook on life. I started walking with my head held high, knowing that I was deserving of respect, love, and joy. The insecurities that had once weighed me down started to lift, and in their place came a sense of freedom I had never known. For anyone watching this video who might be struggling like I did, I want you to know that healing is possible. It's a journey, one that takes time and effort, but it's worth every step. And if you're looking for a place to start, I highly recommend grabbing a copy of Curves, Confidence, and Crowns, Embracing Your Body as a Plus-Sized Black Woman. It changed my life, and I know it can do the same for you. This book helped me see myself in a way I never had before, and it gave me the tools to fully embrace my body, my identity, and my worth. Don't wait for someone else to crown you, crown yourself. You are a queen, and it's time to live like one.